All right, let's get started. Any questions so far? Please, last class. So let's have a quick recap about chapter 3, then we're going to start chapter 4. So in chapter 3, we actually talk about international financial markets, right? So the first financial markets, we talk about foreign exchange markets. So in the foreign exchange market, if we want to exchange currency, we can trade spot market or we can trade in the derivative market. What are the difference between these two? So when you say we're going to trade in the spot market versus we're going to trade in the derivative market, what are the differences? Is it same? No idea. Spot market versus derivative. When we trade in the spot markets, do we trade today or do we trade in the future? At what trade we trade? What's the specific name? Spot trade, right? So when you trade in the spot market, we decide on the rate or price today, and we also make the transaction today, right? And the rate we decide, the rate we trade or transact is called spot trade. Now the derivative market is different. The major difference in the derivative market, we decide on the rate today, but we transact in future, right? So in the derivative market, we decide on the rate at time 0. Transact at the rate, same rate at time equal to 1 or future. So when we trade in future based on the derivative market, maybe tomorrow, on that day, the rate that is going on is known as spot trade in the future. But the rate we decided today will be used to transact in future. That is not the spot trade in the future. So let's say we make a contract today that will transact $1.3 for each euro. Let's say. When are you going to transact? 3 months from now. The rate we decided, $1.3 per euro, is the derivative contract rate, which is the forward rate, which is the future rate, which is the options rate, right? 3 months from now, when we reach on that day, the spot rate could be 1.2, 1.4, 1.5, right? It could be anything. 3 months from now, we don't know what's going to be the rate. 3 months from now, the rate is known as spot rate in the future. But the rate we decided today will be used for transaction in the future. Derivative contracts are so many different types. Broadly, there are contracts and options. Contracts could be forward and future. Options would be call and future. Right? The major difference between contracts and options. Contract is an obligation for both buyer and seller of the contract, right? Both long and short. For options, this is an obligation for the seller of the contract, which is short, but for the buyer of the contract, for long, that's a right. That's why at future, contracts need to be executed. Options need to be executed or not depends on the decision of the wrong side. That's why for the contract, nothing exchanged here. But for options, long pays the price to short. Longs pay the price of the option contract to short at day zero. That's why long has the right to decide what to do at future. Major difference: forward contract, future contract. Forward contracts are not traded in the exchange. That's why I have counterparty risk. Future contracts traded in the exchange. That's why I do not have counterparty risk, right? Major difference: call and put. Call is the right to buy. Put is the right to sell. So, if we want to make any transaction for foreign exchange or currency, any question, spot market, derivative market, different types of derivative. You all good so far? Now, other than foreign exchange market, what are some other international financial markets? We talked in the last class. The first one is money market or international money market. In money market instruments are traded. What is the characteristics of money market instruments? What is the characteristics of money market instruments? We talked in the last class, recorded lectures. If you take an investment class, a very fast day, the main characteristics of money market instrument is maturity less than 1 year. You can think about they are short-term debt instrument. Short-term debt instrument because they have maturity less than 1 year. So if any MNCs or if any government need to borrow from the international lenders for short-term period for less than 1 year, they have to issue the instrument in money market. What are some good examples of money market instruments? Certificate of deposits. Sometimes banks issue those to get money from the institutional investors. Commercial paper. Sometimes big corporations issue those to manage their working capital. If they need some money for managing their working capital, they issue commercial paper. So international money market. If MNCs, if government need money for short-term debt, maturity less than 1 year, they will go to the international money market. International credit market. when MNCs need to borrow for long term, more than 1 year, they actually go to international credit market. You can think about just bank loan, just borrowing from foreign banks. That is international credit market. And there is an important term in this international credit market, which is syndicate. Sometimes one bank, one financial institutions are not able to provide the entire amount of the loans to the borrower. So they actually collaborate with some other banks or other financial institutions to get the money. So that is called syndicate. So let's say in Cardsville, I think we have US Bank, we have Bank of Cardsville, and we have Midwest Bank, or Bank of Midwest, something like that. So let's say there is a corporations from Europe want to borrow from these three banks. And US Bank are not able to provide the entire value of the loan by themselves. So US Bank going to Bank of Cardsville, Bank of Midwest, and they're trying to think about, let's three of them will provide the loan. That is a syndicate. So international credit market is kind of a bank loan. And for information, when you talk about international credit market, for any reference rate, international credit market follow LIBOR, London Interbank Offering. In US, we mostly follow Federal Funds Rate, right? That's kind of a base rate or reference rate, right? But for the global credit market, they follow London Interbank Offering Rate, which is a floating rate. Floating rate means each quarter they reset. It's not constant forever. It reset in each quarter mostly. That's why it's a floating rate. And that is used as a base rate or reference. Bond market. What is a bond? Not James Bond. What is a bond in financial market? When a corporation issue any bond, what does it mean? What is a bond? Is it a short-term debt, long-term debt, is it a debt, is it equity? What is that? When a corporation issues bond, why they issue bond? If they get some cash or money from issuing the bond, what they need to pay in return to the investor? What is a bond? Long-term debt, okay. So when any corporation issue any bond, what they need to pay back? Coupon, absolutely, and what else? Principal value of maturity. So when any MNC needs money for long term, they can issue bond by going to the bond market. If they issue any bond, today the MNC will get the cash flow, and for that cash, each semi-annual or each annual, they will pay some sort of fixed interest, maybe 2%, 3%. In bond setting, we call them coupon, fixed interest rate. And at expiration, here, they pay back the principal value or loan value. Each period, could be semi-annual, quarter, annual, a fixed interest rate, keep paying that until expiration. At expiration, they pay the interest and if they issue bond, that is not ownership claim. That is a fixed claim. Investors are only entitled to enjoy those fixed interest rates. They will not enjoy the growth of the MNC. They will only enjoy the fixed interest rate from the MNC. If the MNC fail to pay that, there is a different risk. A bond is a source for long-term financing. Finally, stock market. When MNCs want to issue stocks in the international market because they need long-term financing and they want to give ownership claim to the investors, the foreign investors, they can issue equity on the international stock market. If we talk about international stock market, they can do it in two different ways. See. Where is that? Yes, they can do it in two different ways. One is the active stock offering. This is just nothing but issue the stock, new number of stock to the international stock market. Let's say firms from Europe, China, Australia, they come in US or listed in NYSE and keep issuing new stock just for getting long-term financing. This is Yankee stock offerings. On the other hand, which is more common globally, is issuing ADR or American Depository Receipts. Don't get confused, because when I was an undergrad student, I used to think ADR means if funds coming to US only, America only. No. ADR means any corporations using their existing stocks make a bundle and then reissue the certificates on a foreign stock market. Anyone from Europe, if they're doing it in US, that's an ADR. Anyone from Australia doing it in Europe, still ADR. Okay? American Depository Receipts. They are not issuing new number of stocks. They are just combining the existing number of stocks. Keep it as an, you can think about a mortgage, or keep it as an asset backed. So from those number of stocks, they are reissuing some new certificates on the foreign stock market to get some money. This is called ADR. It's not issuing new stock. Using the existing stocks, they are generating some certificate backed by those existing stocks and getting some money. If you look carefully, a lot of corporations in the US, from outside the US, using ADRs to collect equity money. Questions? Chapter 3. Do we have a quiz today or Thursday? Today, right? Okay. So this is all about chapter 3 recap, which may help you to take the quiz today. So any questions from quiz 2? Is it working? Like if you go after 11, you can see it's working? Okay, that's good. So going forward, quiz is done by 11. If you go after 11, you can see whether you made any mistakes or not, which is the right answer. Okay, that's good. So now let's move on to chapter 4. So in chapter 4, we will learn why exchange rate moves. Okay, what are the factors that makes exchange rate to move? So let's say 1 USD to pounds, right? So if we look at this graph, it's trying to show you the spot rate in each specific point of time, right? Spot rate between USD and pound each specific point of time. So this is after 1 month graph. So you can play with like 1 day, 5 day, something like that. So why it jumped? If anyone following pound, is anyone following pound? No? Okay, that's good. So why it jumped, right? Because the spot rate is not constant. It will keep moving. It will keep moving. And that is the objective of chapter 4. If we look at spot rate time to time, why it is changing? Because spot rate is a constant. Okay. So do we know this definition? Currency appreciation, depreciation, you know that, right? And we can also capture appreciation and depreciation from exchange rate, right? So value of Canadian dollar, right? 1 Canadian dollar, let's say in January 1 was 70 cents. 1 Canadian dollar in February 1, 71 cents, right? So what do you think? Appreciated US dollar or depreciated US dollar? Spot rate in January 1, spot rate in February 1. US dollar appreciated, depreciated. Depreciated, right? Because now we need to pay 1 cent more to get 1 Canadian dollar, right? From US perspective, US dollar depreciated, right? So we can calculate appreciation, depreciation, right? Okay. Now, what will cause these spot rates to move? Okay. Pure microeconomic theory, demand and supply. For this class, US dollar is our home currency. Pound is our foreign currency. So when people from United States will demand pound, when we're gonna demand pound? Any idea? When and why we should demand for pound? So that will demand more, right? But why we should demand pound? Why? If pound depreciate, will demand more, right? If pound appreciate, will demand less. If pound did not change, what is the reasons? We need pound. Think about MNCs, government, individuals. When and why we'll need pound? Forget about appreciation and depreciation. When US people, MNCs in the US, may need pound. Why? If we demand for British goods and services, We have to pay those producers, manufacturers, suppliers by pound, right? If you go to the street, you can see Range Rovers produced by man, automobile, right? If you want to buy a lot of Range Rovers rather than GMC, Cadillac, what do you have to do? We have to pay them in pounds, right? If we need some services, very specific services that is only produced by, let's say, UK, we will need pound. So the reason is when we will demand people from US, agencies from US, government from US will demand pound. If they need to pay for goods and services coming from UK or England or whatever, right? When people from UK or British will supply pound, when they will supply pound and ask for dollar. That's a change, right? If appreciate or depreciate, they will do more or less. But I'm asking, what are some regular reasons they will supply pound and ask for dollar? Absolutely, that's the reasons. If people from UK, people from England, they ask for goods and services from US, and for that they have to pay in dollar. So that's why they will supply for pound and ask for dollar. So when there's appreciation or depreciation, that's a change from last level. But if there is no change, what are the causes for demand and supply for British pound? Causes for demand: if people from US rely on UK goods and services, they have to pay. Causes for supply: people from UK, they rely on US goods and services, so they supply British pound for the return of US dollar, right? Now this competing force will decide the equilibrium rate. This competing force will decide the exchange rate and the supply of dollar and pound. Make sense? Which is in economics we call equilibrium, right? When the supply and demand intersects each other, we're gonna reach the equilibrium spot rate or equilibrium rate at which exchange or transaction gonna happen, and we'll decide the equilibrium quantity. So let's say this is a demand curve, okay? Demand curve for British pound. Price is presented in dollar, right? So when 1 pound is equal to $1.6, this is the quantity demanded, right? When 1 pound is equal to $1.5, this is the quantity demanded. So now, if the rate change, appreciation or depreciation, quantity demanded is changing, right? But if nothing change at this rate, why people will demand pound? Because they have to pay for goods and services coming from UK, right? Demand curve is negatively slope or downward facing slope. Negative slope or downward slope? What does it mean? Any idea? Demand curve is negative slope. What does it mean? From the microeconomics class. Yeah, this is something that can.
As the quantity of pounds go up, the value of it decreases.
So basically the price, right? So negative slope means price is high, we demand less. Price is low, we demand more, right? So the relationship between the price and demand of quantity is negative. So that's why it's called negative slope. Make sense? Now, if we say there is a shift, there is a move in demand curve. So this is our initial level of demand. There is a move in our demand curve. D1. What do you think? Demand increased or demand decreased? The entire curve. Is the demand increased or decreased?
Demand increases because as you move to the right, the quantity increases.
Absolutely. The reason why demand increased is easy to prove. Fix the price. Quantity demanded increased or decreased? Increased, right? Fixing the price for any price level. Any price level. So when demand curve moves to the right, for same price level, the demand increased. Maybe US people now relying more on goods and services from UK. So that's why they are demanding more quantity of pound. So for each price level, they are demanding more quantity of pound, right? Make sense? If we flip the story, what happens now? Demand increases or decreases? Decreases, right? Because if you fix the price for each price level, US people are demanding less quantity of pound, right? So if demand curve shift to the left, the entire curve decrease, right? Because for every price level, there is lesser demand. Supply curve. What do you think about the slope? Positive or negative? And why? Positive or negative? Positive, why? How can we tell or how can we explain why supply curve is positive? So higher the price, people from UK want to supply more pound, right? So the relationship between price and quantity is positive, right? So that actually making a supply curve positive result. Now, if we reach the supply curve here, supply increased or decreased? Increased, why? Increased or decreased? Supply curve moved to the right. Supply increased or decreased? Increased. For fixing the price, more supply, less supply. More supply, right? Supply to increase, right? Similarly, supply decrease, right? Makes sense? To reach initial level of equilibrium, what you need? Competing force of supply and demand. The point they intersect each other. Spot rate or equilibrium range. Quantity, demand and supply equal, right? So the demand from US people for the British pound, that much. The supply of UK people for British pound is that much. And they both agreed to exchange $1 equivalent to, sorry, £1 equivalent to $1.55. So any demand and supply competing force, when they intersect each other, that actually determine exchange rate, spot rate, and the quantity. Do you think the supply and demand forces are constant? Once we reach the initial level, we will stay there. It will not constant. It will move. What's going to happen? Let's say over next 3 days, what's going to happen? It will stay there, move, right? So let's say this is our initial level of equilibrium, right? And let's think about people from US. They demand more British pound. So what should be the impact here on this graph? Initial level of equilibrium, okay? We reached there. Now I'm adding one extra point. People from US, they demand more British pound. What should be the new change here? What should be the change? If you just use your hand like this and that, I don't know what's going on. You have to tell me. Supply curve, demand curve, stay the same, move in some direction, then I can draw. What do you think? What should be the change? Yes, Manta. Is it we all agree? Okay. So is this a new demand curve? Right? If we still want to trade on this rate, we still want to trade at 1.55 rate. What is the problem? You can see from here. So at this price, more demand than supply. Because at this price, people from UK want to supply this much. People from US demand this much. So the functional intermediate of the bank that is in the middle, trying to help each other to exchange, they're in a big problem, right? Because they have less supply of pound, more demand of pound, right? You can think about over demand, under supply condition, right? What's gonna happen? What the fund institutions or the exchange house gonna do? Clearing house gonna do for that? Increase the price a little bit. So they will increase the price until this point. Maybe, I don't know, maybe let's say 1.57. If you increase the price a little bit, you can see that although there is a lot of increase in the demand, but people who are demanding more based on 1.55 exchange rate, now they're going to reduce the demand from the original level, right? Because the rate went up. So the demand gonna go down a little bit. At the same time, people that used to supply at 1.55 rate, now they will feel more motivated to supply more. So this is gonna be the new equilibrium level of quantity. This is gonna be the new equilibrium level of spot rates. If nothing changes, what's gonna happen? Spot rate goes up a little bit, and supply, equilibrium supply and demand also changes. Make sense? Okay. Now moving back, the initial point. People from UK want to supply more because they want to buy a lot of goods and services from UK. From this initial level, adding one point, people from UK want to supply more because they want to buy more goods and services from US. What is the change? What should the change? Demand curve, supply curve, what should the change? Are you going to have a new demand curve? Are you going to have a new supply curve? Or are you going to have nothing? What are you going to have? Okay. So you're saying something like that? What's the problem with that on the initial level? Now we have more supply, right? So the functional intermediary that is in the middle, now they can go to the reserve and they can see there's a lot of pound available than demanded, right? What they're gonna do to make sure it's a balance? They want people from US also increase some demand, right? But US people don't want that, right? At this price. They don't want to change the demand curve at this price, right? The partial intermediary or institution can lower the exchange rate and reach here, maybe let's say something about 150. So that they can offset those additional supply with the existing demand by lowering the exchange rate of the price you can think about in terms of product. So the idea is we always have some sort of equilibrium which is not constant, which is not fixed forever. That is keep changing depending on market terms and conditions, which is demand and supply. And that new demand and supply will force us to reach a new equilibrium point. And that is the reasons. On the Google, we show that exchange rates keep changing. That is the reason. Question so far? So now we'll talk about what are the 4 factors that will force the change in the spot rate. Okay. So basically, inflation, interest rate, income level, government control, expectation. You can think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 factors. These 5 factors could be the reason why we see changes in spot exchange rate. So before we start, let's have some talk about interest rate. When we see interest rate, let's say if you want to borrow, if you want to lend, we talk about 5%, 6% interest rate, right? Is it the real interest rate or nominal interest rate? Do we know the difference between real and nominal? Going to the bank, borrow for my house, borrow for my car, borrow for my land. The interest rate the bank is offering me, is it a real interest rate, nominal interest rate? What do you think? Absolutely, but the rate we get from the bank, is it real or nominal? Nominal. So when we see any kind of interest rate, that is basically nominal interest. Nominal interest rate is a function of the real interest rate, inflation. Then what is inflation? What is inflation? Grocery price could be a good example, but what is the definition? What is inflation? Can you say something? Price increase for what? If the price increase from today to tomorrow, then goes down again with inflation. What is inflation?
The value of the currency is going down.
Value of the currency can go down for a lot of different reasons, right? A lot of different reasons. Even the economy is not doing good, let's say. What is inflation? When you talk about inflation, this is a persistent increase in the price level. Persistent increase in the price level. Be careful, persistent. So if something for some reason, gas price keep changing every day, right? Before COVID versus now, persistent increase, right? Now, sometimes we see like $3, $3.10, $2.90, $3.20. This is not inflation. What is inflation? Persistent increase. Before COVID, it used to be like $2 or less. Now it is around $3, right? Persistent increase from COVID to now. Inflation. Price level. Price level of similar amount of goods, similar basket of goods. In US, we mostly refer to the CPI index, Consumer Price Index. So in CPI index, there is a fixed amount of goods. They actually observe month to month changes in the price level of same amount of goods. When there is a persistent increase of similar amount of goods or similar basket of goods, this is called inflation. Any idea how much is inflation right now in the US? January, let's say January, how much is inflation? Don't Google, use from your memory. How much? Can you find that answer?
Oh, yeah, I definitely Googled it, but 7.6%.
What month you're looking at?
January,
2023. Is it year over year or month over month?
year over year.
Okay. Okay. 7%. Does it looks okay, reasonable in terms of years history? What do you think? Is it looks okay? Let's see US history. Let's see, did we get? So does it look okay, reasonable in terms of US history? That is the history, right? So 150 is 1.5%, okay? Don't get confused. It's not 150%, 1.5%. Now it is kind of what? These are up to 2021. You say 7%, up to 2021, it used to be like pretty less, right? So that would make sense. Is it more? 1% was kind of the history for US. If you look at 20, 30 years of history, around 1%. But now it is 7%. And that is the reasons Federal Reserve System, right? Chair of Fed, Jerome Powell is trying to fight to reduce inflation. So going back. So inflation, we got the idea of what is inflation. Real interest rate. What is real interest rate? So when you say real interest rate, by definition, it means if we invest money somewhere, what we are doing, we are delaying the consumption, right? If I have $1,000 in my pocket, I invest, let's say in stock market. What I'm doing, I am not consuming that $1,000. I'm delaying the consumption for tomorrow, right? So by definition, real interest rate is the rate of return you are getting for delaying your consumption. That is the real interest rate. The rate of return you are getting for delaying the consumption. In Fisher world, real interest rate means if the inflation is zero in the economy, if there is no inflation in the economy, the interest rate you are generating by investment is real interest rate. Makes sense? nominal interest rate, real interest rate, inflation. According to Fisher, this is the actual equation. This is the actual equation. Real interest plus 1 times 1 plus inflation is basically the nominal. Okay. But this is a good approximation. If you don't want to take that pain, just sum them up. That's a good approximation. But the second one is the actual equation. Questions of what? Okay, so now we're gonna see impact of these different factors individually on the equilibrium spot rate. This is our initial level, right? Let's say hypothetically. Okay. So let's say increase in US inflation, but UK inflation stays the same. One of the things we have to be careful when we are trying to analyze these 5 factors. Change in the differential between the 2 countries. We cannot say both US and UK goes up at the same time. We have to look at the differential increase or decrease, okay? So if US inflation goes up, let's say by 7%, UK by 5%, that means differential increase 2%. You have to think about the differential change when we're trying to analyze it, what causes what to move. So that's why, let's say, the differential is more for US. US experienced more increase in the inflation level than UK. If that happens, what do you think should be the outcome of the equilibrium? More inflation in the US than UK. What should be the impact on the spot rate between dollar and pound? Let's talk about how the demand and supply are going to be affected. Is demand and supply are both going to change? One of the two going to change, or nothing going to be changed? For what? Why? Say that again, the last line. Yeah, absolutely. Why? What is the reasons? Why we should demand more?
Of the food in the United States more expensive.
Absolutely, that's the point. If the differential change of inflation is more for US, that means all else equal, goods and services in UK gonna be less expensive, right? More cheaper, right? So that's why people from US will demand for more goods and services from UK. More increase in demands. Anything else? Yes, demand? Okay, which means on the other way, supply of pounds gonna decrease too, right? Because if UK people demand less dollar, they will supply less pound, right? Right? Decrease the supply, increase the demand. So what is the offsetting result? Spot rate went up. Make sense? So this was our initial, let's say, spot rate 0 for same thing. Makes sense? Questions so far? You all good? Now, what if I do? So let's erase the additions. So this is our addition. This is our addition. Erase the addition. Right? Going back to the original point. I say this to is there impact? No impact. Demand goes up, goes down, supply goes up, goes down. What is the expectation? Differential inflation in US decreased. What is the outcome? What the people in US and UK want to do in terms of their demand and supply for foreign goods. If inflation is less in US, what the people in US want to do? They will ask for more UK goods? No. If they don't ask for more UK goods, what is the impact on the demand curve for British pound? Goes down. Right? And then if goods and services are cheaper in US than UK, what gonna people from UK gonna do? Supply more because they will ask for more products from US. Okay. For similar quantity, spot rate goes down. So don't assume the quantity will be always same, okay? I'm just graphing it. Quantity can also move. But the main implication, spot rate either go up or go down. That's the main implication. Quantity can also move. In real world, it doesn't mean when demand and supply are changing, quantity is staying the fixed. No, the quantity can also move. But the main implication, when there is more inflation in your home country, you will demand more of foreign goods. Okay, and that is a direct impact of the spot trade goes up. When there is less inflation in your home country, what's going to happen? You will less demand foreign goods. Spot trade going to go down, right? So if the spot trade goes down, that means the home currency is appreciating, right? If spot trade is going up, that means the home currency is depreciating. So inflation has a direct impact on the appreciation and depreciation. If the differential inflation is more in your home country, your home currency will depreciate. Differential inflation is less in your home country, your home currency will appreciate. Makes sense? Question so far?
So the spot rate,
Okay. So if the differential inflation is more in your home country, okay, your home currency will depreciate. Differential inflation is less in your home country, your home currency will appreciate. The inflation is not good for the value of your home currency. That's the outcome. If you understand this, don't need to memorize. Inflation is not good for the value of your home currency. Makes sense? Any questions? Thoughts? So that's all for today. You all present? Okay.